The 6th season of Winx Club invokes within me a primal rage. Released in 2014, the 10-year anniversary of the franchise, Season 6 was the second season to be co-produced between Rainbow SRL and Nickelodeon. Though the girls had graduated from Alphea long ago in The Secret of the Lost Kingdom, Season 5 attempted to quietly reset their ages to 16 and reinstate them at Alphea as perpetual students. Part of this was to make it easier to come up with seasonal plots without having to worry about drastic changes in continuity, such as Season 4 moving the girls to Earth once they'd become adults. But it was also done in a desire to lower the show's target age demographic. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, but regardless, the quality of the show began to dip, and Season 6 marked when the show had officially tripped down the stairs and fallen into the coffin that Rainbow had unknowingly constructed for itself. Most of you probably know that I rewrote all of Season 5. Link in the cards. And I know you're all probably keen to see me release a rewrite of Season 6. I am keenly aware of that, given it keeps appearing in the comments of literally every video. Part of the reason it hasn't been released is, well, in general, I like to take as much time as I need on my projects, and I like to do so in solitude. The last thing I want to do on something I care about and enjoy is rush it out and, as a result, release a half-baked product that needed more time in the oven. And I also want to be able to work on my own time and my own schedule, so having some arbitrary deadline bothers me and hinders the creative process. I am of the belief that it is ready when it's ready. But even then, I've found every time I visit the outline for my Season 6 rewrite, I tend to have trouble kickstarting it. I have solid ideas, but the details then become muddy, and any plot I try to construct winds up evaporating when I decide it's not good enough. Of course, a big reason why is because I have other projects that need my attention, including a certain novel that I'm looking to release in the near future. Teasing a years-old book? Yes, I am. But another reason why is because the source material I have to work with is fucking trash. I still stand by my belief that Season 5 and onwards each had interesting ideas that could have been taken in unique, compelling directions, and that includes 6. The problem is that while Season 5 was solid enough for me to work with within a clear structure, from which grew organic themes, character arcs, and storylines, Season 6 is essentially an abyss of despair. And snakes. Very mean snakes. I know the major character arcs I want to explore for Bloom, the Trix, and Selena, and my friend Cinzy, as well as several patrons in my Discord server, have helped in discussions of potential ideas that definitely got the gears turning. Just in general, it's nice to see more people engaging with their creativity and fan works, as I generally consider my rewrites to be glorified fan fiction that I do largely for fun. And also because if I were to ever stop writing in any form, I would go insane. But beyond that, the details grow foggy for a number of reasons. So I figured why not turn my agony into content for all of you to enjoy. Not to mention that I shade Season 6 plenty in most of my videos anyway, and given people are more than happy to join in, making it its own video is a convenient way to explain in detail why Season 6 is misery incarnate seems to be the way to go. I hope you all enjoy this, and I'm also hoping that articulating my problems with this season will help me unstuck my creativity. I'm also looking forward to talking about how a show like Winx decayed over time, and why so many people consider Season 6 to be the true beginning of the end. The point at which there was no turning back, and how in so many ways Season 6 led us to the dumpster fires of Season 8 and Fate the Winx saga. That said, I do want to preface this going forward. Again, I know a lot of you are excited about the Season 6 rewrite, and I appreciate that excitement. And I also appreciate the creativity you're all showing in wanting to rewrite the story. That being said, over time I've discovered that I need as many boundaries between myself and my YouTube persona as possible in order to better my mental health. That means the most I will engage with viewers is usually within the Discord server nowadays. But I have noticed that a lot of people are very eager to share their ideas with me, and while I do appreciate that, it can also be a bit off-putting, especially like if I don't know the person and suddenly I am hit with a barrage of reread ideas. And this has happened many, many times. I don't mean anyone specifically. So I simply ask, please respect my boundaries and try to understand the boundaries that I'm putting in place and respect them. That's all I ask. I just can't look over literally every single person's rewrite ideas when I have things of my own going on. And it's not humanly possible for me, nor would it be healthy for me to try and achieve that. That said, I do encourage you to share them with each other, with your friends, with the community. I hope this is making sense, and I hope this is coming across nicely, because I don't want to be mean about it, but also, like, I need to enforce my boundaries. So without further ado, let's begin the roast. The Legendarium is a mystical book that can conjure up all sorts of fantastical creatures from virtually any fairy tale you could imagine. And in a series like Winx Club, which has always been a blend of fantasy and science fiction, it is interesting to think of how its unique worlds might clash with the classical fantasy genre fairy tales are often steeped in. It also has this air of nostalgia, both in the idea of these timeless stories being told, as well as a reference to Bloom's original idea of what fairies were back in season 1, before Stella shot it down with her scepter. Yeah, what happened to her scepter? Where did it go? In practice, though, the Legendarium is nothing more than a convenient plot device for generic, boring, and uninspired monsters of the day. For the most part, these creatures are forgettable and easily pass for any number of other monsters the girls have already faced in previous seasons. The waters are especially muddied by the fact that the Legendarium is filled with fairy tales from both Earth and the magical universe. You would think it would be from Earth, given Earth is the place that has more orthodox ideas of what constitutes fantasy, and it's rich with all sorts of stories to pull from. That's not to say hearing the fairy tales of the magical universe are irrelevant, as I would actually love to hear more about them, but having them shoved into this book along with the Earth legends just makes the thing even more confused. But back to the monster of the day aspect, these creatures are often used for shallow, contrived conflict to pad the episode runtimes. The writers especially needed that, given season 6 oscillates between having no plot whatsoever or having an arbitrary fetch quest that means absolutely nothing. I've mentioned my grievances with episode 1 focusing on Daphne in my video ranking all the show's premieres. Again in the cards. But episodes 2 through 6 honestly are equally uninteresting. If anything, at least episode 1 is self-contained in its pointlessness, but 2 through 6 drag out the torment. Episode 2 is rife with filler of the girls going back to school for the 6th damn time, being forced into boring uniforms to reinforce we are indeed 16 again, and having yet another party for whatever reason. No, I don't have an issue with Faragonda being old as hell, even though it does bring up questions of how long magical universe denizens live and just how old Faragonda was when she was in the company of light, but honestly I stopped caring in season 5. My issue is that this season is filled with all kinds of celebrations and parties for no reason. It feels like whenever the writers need to kill more time, they'll just make the characters throw parties at random. That's not even touching on the Pixie thing, which, ooh, we'll get there. And we'll also get into Selena's introduction in character writing soon, but her choosing to attack Pixie Village feels so... why? She doesn't seem to know the Winx will go defend it, and the fact Griffin allowed this to happen at all makes no sense. Then it gets even weirder with the Tricks, who for some reason are back in their original forms. Okay then, goodbye Dark Cyrenix. Kicking Griffin's ass because Cloud Tower must be conquered yet again for nostalgia bait, and then getting all dolled up for the New England witch reunion over in Salem. After that, the episodes feel even more contrived with a random visit to Linfea, coinciding with a random attack by the Tricks on Linfea, followed by a random visit to some music college, and then a party where we throw all of Bloom's responsibilities onto Daphne before throwing Bloom into a hell pit, because we can't think of anything else besides villainizing Diospro. There's no rhyme or reason for anything that's happened so far. The Winx aren't actively trying to stop the Tricks as much as they're just reacting to their attacks, At least not until Daphne brings up the Legendarium, which, okay, yeah, you've noticed a pattern of strange monsters attacking you, but what made Daphne think the Legendarium was the source? Y'all fight fantastical monsters all the time, what makes these ones any different? And then we move on to the fetch quests. Now for this part, I'm going to share the definition of a trope called a MacGuffin. A MacGuffin is some plot element, usually an object, sometimes a person, that is needed to advance the plot. Rather than the plot being advanced solely through character motivation or action, the MacGuffin can do that all by itself. And as such, it's often abused by novice or lazy writers for cheap conflict and easy plot generation. But MacGuffins can also be used incredibly well, especially when tied into themes and/or character arcs. For more information, I highly recommend Overly Sarcastic Productions' Trope Talk video all about MacGuffins, as well as Just Right's video on how MacGuffins can ruin movies. Season 6 relies heavily on MacGuffins, and lazy ones at that. The first of which being the Diary of Eldora, the fairy godmother who last held the Legendarium. First of all, y'all knew a fairy godmother had that book, but not Eldora specifically? How was that even possible? How would you know it was a fairy godmother who had the book, yet not know who she was? Especially when she worked at your damn school and had an entire greenhouse that for some reason you just kept around and left entirely abandoned. What is wrong with these magic schools? So anyway, the girls go on a dumb field trip to Earth to find the diary, first to Alexandria in Egypt, and then to China, and then they go back to Elphia. Okay, I thought this was going to be more of a globe-trotting thing, but whatever. A lot of this season involves random adventures to different places across Earth, which... why? Again, a weird mix of Earth and the magical universe when most people probably just want to see more of the magical universe. Especially with magic having been returned to Earth, not seeing that explored makes Season 4 feel so hollow. Sure, all humans see pixies now, but that's about where it ends. We don't see Earthlings developing magic aside from Selena, who had her magic pre-Season 4, which... we'll tear that apart later. We don't see how this is affecting the people of Earth overall. We just use Earth as an easy place to plop the Winx for pointless misadventures. Probably because the writers are too lazy to come up with anywhere new in the magical universe, so Earth is just easier. Then, once we get back to Elphia, Season 6 actually gets slightly interesting with more character-motivated stories. But that quickly screeches to a halt once we reach the end of episode 14. 14 ends with a random Mother's Day party, which... okay then, the only highlight is Musa's little moment of remembering her mother. Oh my god, my girl needs a hug. But 15 through 18 follow the Winx visiting Calavera Island in Fearwood Forest. Fictional locale set in... well, they don't actually say where Calavera is meant to be, but Fearwood is set in Canada. Anyhow, this bunch of episodes follows the Winx trying to find fantastical artifacts that can be used to forge the Legendarium key, which can be used to permanently lock the Legendarium. Why would Ashrong create a book which could just be locked in the first place? I don't fucking care. But the girls get a hold of the Fantasy Emerald and the Silver Spear, two items which hold no significance in the story whatsoever, and the latter which only exists for about 20 seconds before they combine to create the key. After this, the Tricks turn Cloud Tower invisible again to make sure you remember that time it turned invisible back in Season 3, and also to stall for time so the girls can fuck around the magical universe aimlessly until the finale. I covered how frustrating this last stretch of Season 6 is, along with how much the finale makes me want to defenestrate myself in my videos ranking the series finales. Again in the cards. So I won't go into that much here. But suffice to say, Season 6 can't be bothered to come up with a compelling plot rooted in character motivations. Instead, the show relies on these pointless MacGuffin hunts and miscellaneous stumbling to pad out the 26 episodes, and as such, it comes across as a shallow, mind-numbing experience. The pacing is at its best in those middle episodes from 10 to 14, and the rest... ugh. Though I suppose we don't have to rush to stop the villains anytime soon, given the villains themselves are terrible at their job. At this point, someone needs to show the Tricks the door, because they have outstayed their welcome. These three can only try to take over the magical universe so many times before everyone is bored to sleep. The only change this season, aside from the admittedly impressive glow-up, is that this time the Tricks are in charge. Or rather, they think they're in charge. They conquer Cloud Tower, yet again, and far too easily. then go on a rampage conquering the other magical colleges across the worlds. Now, this idea is fine enough, especially given it means getting to see more of the magical universe, but there are several issues. Namely the fact that the kingdoms do literally nothing to stop the tricks. Just last season, the rulers of the kingdoms were meeting to discuss how to stop Tritanus, but none of them can do the same for the tricks? Maybe they just don't consider them enough of a threat to bother. See, I can't even be bothered to show them respect. I'm burping in the middle of a record. Let's be real, I would keep that in anyway. But my main issue comes in the fact that the tricks are still complete buffoons with no clue what they're doing. They come across less like the tyrants who conquered all of Magix back in season 1, and more like annoying mean girls who subtweet you. It would have been interesting to see their motivations aside from wanting power. Surely they must be exhausted at this point, having been defeated so many times and just wanting to spite the Winx at this point. Seeing them lose their sanity just a little bit. But nah. They're the same one-dimensional villains they were from last season, if not more so. Selena is far more interesting, but even she is a waste of potential. She has little to no presence for most of the season, hardly ever encountering the Winx, and having a shallow conflict with Bloom, and an even shallower motivation. Shallower? More shallower? Shallots. Shalom. All it really boils down to is Acheron promised her power.
Trust Eldora! Eldora was lame. She just wanted me to follow the rules. She never gave me any real power.
And she was like, cool!
I choose you, Acheron.
Thanks, I hate it.
Thanks to the power of the dragon flame, I can free Acheron, the only real friend I have.
Like, why not have Selena be envious of Bloom or something? And that's why she wanted the dark powers from Acheron. And how did she even have magic to begin with? Roxy was the last fairy on Earth. No other fairies were shown from the Tree of Life in season 4. Where does her magic even come from? How did she evade the Black Circle? How in the hell did Eldora sense Selena's magic as a child and want to train her, but not Bloom, the fairy of the fucking dragon flame? Not to mention the fact that Selena was originally a fairy under Eldora, then became the Witch of Snakes while serving Acheron, because Snake's evil, only to go back to being a fairy by the end of season 6. I don't understand this need to have witches all be evil. Surely at this point Griffin has proven that that's not how witches roll, and I doubt Cloud Tower would have been allowed to resume operations if they literally taught you how to take over the universe. Why couldn't Selena just be the inverse of Murda? She originally studied to be a fairy, only to realize it wasn't for her and she was much happier becoming a witch, with no malice attached to it. We appreciate some good trans coding. I mean, we would also appreciate actual trans characters, but like, if this is the best we got, fine, I guess. I kind of already have a whole backstory plan for Selena, and it was actually one of the first ideas I came up with in regards to a 6 rewrite, but I'm gonna make you bitches wait for it. On the bright side, it should be more tolerable than having to put up with Acheron in canon. Oh my god, if Selena was a waste of potential, then Acheron is just a waste of everyone's time. Again, my video ranking the villains covered why Acheron is the actual worst threat in the entire franchise. But to recap, I don't care about him. He's only present for about 10 to 15 minutes before he gets defeated by being sealed in the dollar store Agador box. No motivation, no personality, just a generic baddie who turns on Selena for giggles before being defeated in the most anticlimactic way imaginable.
Wait! What are you doing? No!
Honestly, Rumpelstiltskin was more engaging of a character than Acheron, which... wow. And that's sad, because I loathe Rumpel. Not only does his constant speaking in rhyme get grating very quickly...
I see you're back here for your key. But, my friend, what's in it for me?
but his entire existence is literally just to give the writers a way to artificially raise the stakes by stealing the key of the Legendarium. And like, what could he even want it for? He lives in the Legendarium world. I understand his goal is to collect treasures, but what value would this key really have where he's from? And for the love of God, can we please stop making Diospro into a villain? At this point, her role in the story keeps breaking the continuity. We still have that issue of how she was allowed to be an advisor, let alone liaison on Heraklion last season, when she was banished in season 3 for working with Valtor to put a dark spell on the prince. And now here she's still obsessed with Sky and decides to go to Daphne's coronation to try and kill Bloom, which is a disturbing escalation, but also, who the fuck invited her? They never say who let her in, nor whether she just forged an invitation, and no one thought to alert Bloom and the others. No one went, oh hey, it's that bitch who tried to take over Sky's mind a while back, and who just gave Bloom hell last season. I hope she has a good night. At this point, I'm so annoyed with Bloom and everyone, I can't blame him. And then, once she throws Bloom into the vortex of flames, Daphne attacks her, and Diospro just vanishes? Literally, she flies off screen, Daphne goes,
Where did she go?
And then we just never see Diospro again. No one ever talks about her or acknowledges her existence.
I forgot that you existed.
So, what? Ah, well, I guess we're just meant to assume that she died only to be resurrected by the soft reboot of Season 8, where again, no one remembers what she did, getting flashbacks to Ursula in Kingdom Hearts 2. So the villains this season are trash, all around. Incompetent, boring, and underwhelming as all hell, which really stings, because usually if the main characters are annoying, at least you can have a bit of fun by choosing chaos and rooting for the villains. But I ain't rooting for these idiots. But, speaking of annoying main characters. This season is the worst when it comes to character writing for all of the Winx. And I sincerely mean that. In some way, every single one of them makes me want to scream at some point while watching this season. Or rather, some of them make me want to scream in how they act, while others are forced into pointless subplots that drag on and on and on, and feel like the equivalent of listening to nails on a chalkboard. When people call Bloom a Mary Sue, I tend to disagree. The whole is a character a Mary Sue debate is a mess. So for quick reference, I recommend Overly Sarcastic Productions' Trope Talk episode all about her. But to summarize, a Mary Sue is more than just a poorly written female lead. To truly be a Mary Sue, the character actually needs to warp the other characters, story, and world around herself, and any character is capable of this, not just female. To truly be a Sue, the character has to be the only important thing in the universe, to which everything else is a set piece that bends around them. Bloom is perhaps too idealized in the first few seasons, with no real faults aside from she can be a bit of a hothead sometimes, clearly by her publicly attacking Diospro unprovoked in Season 1, and then facing literally no consequences for it whatsoever. Yes, I will die mad. But she isn't really made to be the most important part of the story. She's the main character, yes, but that doesn't stop the other Winx and plenty of side characters from getting their time in the spotlight. Season 4 really ramped up this idealized version of Bloom that just didn't feel like her old hothead self anymore, and it only got worse with time. But every other character still managed to get time to be important and somehow didn't tie back into Bloom, so still not a Sue. Annoying, but not a Sue. Season 6 Bloom warps the plot around herself to be at the center of everything. Most of the time this season, she's the one who hogs the spotlight, who gets all the attention from villains and supporting characters alike, and who gets all the important moments. The closest she gets to being her old self is her reaction to nearly poisoning Flora. But even then, it's treated like a simple mistake that she needs some alone time to deal with instead of, an incredibly traumatic experience that would probably follow her for the rest of the season. But still, other characters are getting to shine, so again, it's not exactly a Sue. So I would say Bloom is poorly written. She is boring, she is too perfect, but she still ain't a Sue. There are other stupid things in this stupid season the writers expect you to also care about, so by definition, Bloom is not a Mary Sue. She's just a bad character. Oh, God. Ugh. And I mention all this because, as Red points out in the Trope Talk episode, female characters aren't allowed to just be badly written, they must be Mary Sues, whereas male characters who are very similar seem never to get called that. Gee, I wonder why. Stella, meanwhile, seems to have suffered from long-lasting effects from that dumb age changer subplot from Season 5. There's this whole subplot with her running a secret boutique in her upstairs closet at Alfea, because last season she was so keen on being a fashion designer, which Cool, I guess that's a nice way to explain all the outfits that the girls keep getting in canon, but the segments of showing off these designs take up so much time with pointless gags that go on way too long. There's also those frustrating episodes that take place on Solaria, which I referenced in my video on the couples of the franchise. Just referencing all the videos today, where for some reason the girls decide that the Solarian Royal Library will probably have the answers that they need. Just go with it, it will make life so much easier for you. But they need an excuse to use it. You would think Stella would be a good enough way in as the fucking princess, let alone the fact that this is to stop the Tricks from destroying the entire universe, which like all the kingdoms should be on board with, especially after last season with the Sovereign's Council. Or maybe even Radius would be like, oh, the Winx, you've saved the universe several times, and you also saved my kingdom back in season 3 and season 5. You're welcome to use any resources that you need. You are wonderful. Go on, go study those books and save the world while I just sit here on my throne doing fucking nothing. But no, Stella needs to partake in an ancient tradition where she becomes queen for a day to get the girls access. And she discovers that being a queen isn't fun. Like, oh no, who knew ruling an entire planet wasn't a hashtag girl boss vibe? But it's okay, because the girl boss mirror shows up later, courtesy of the Legendarium, to make sure we drag out this story for as long as we can.
What is it about me that made you think I want to be relatable?
Can you tell how mad I am? Can you tell? Don't even get me started on the awful labyrinth moment where somehow Solaria is connected to ancient Greece and the Minotaur.
I never realized the world of Solaria was linked to such an ancient and mythical place.
And Stella's fear of not being able to escape when she could just literally teleport out like Eldora literally does. Oh my god. Can we just talk about that stupid time limit rule? Like, oh, if you stay in the Legendarium too long, you'll never be able to leave. Which, like, is never enforced. And also the Pixies were in there for literally the whole season, and they left just fine. So what? Why is it even here? Why not? Oh, I don't know. You can't leave the Legendarium until you finish the story that you're in. Automatically more organic and makes sense. But whatever, it's fine. Flora is okay for the most part, save for a minor squabble with Helia being bad at taking care of plants. Again, talk about it in the couples video, which is a thing I'm gonna say a few more times. But it's not the worst thing ever. It's very shallow, and in a season with nothing else to grab onto, it feels worse than it actually is. Though I do like the idea of Flora asserting herself and kicking Icy's ass. I do really like that. Musa is also technically fine, save for the obligatory Riven nonsense. And Aisha's got a weird love triangle with Roy and Nex going on, which... why?
Roy!
10 seconds later.
That's actually something I am just realizing now as of writing the script, and especially while recording it, where most of the girls' subplots revolve around primarily or only around romance this season, which, when those romances are so poorly handled, does not end well. Tekna really has nothing to do this season, though. The episode where we finally meet her parents is cute, yes, but it feels more like a time waster than anything else given the gravity of the situation. And there's also the fact that Frankenstein's monster falls in love with her because she shoots lightning at him, which I don't care at this point, whatever. I don't give a fuck. It doesn't do anything for anyone's characters, it's just a time waster, so that's great. Roxy still gets pushed to the side. Weirdly, she gets a bit more to do this season than last season, like trying to help Griffin turn back to normal, and also helping out with the music cafe band. But other than that, it's like she never even existed.
I forgot that you existed.
The Winx actually wind up looking younger than her thanks to their uniforms too, so that's great. I remember discourse from back when season 6 was coming out that the writers were trying to see if they could handle having 7 Winx, and they used Daphne as a sort of guinea pig, which is why she sometimes tags along with the main group. And honestly, I don't mind Daphne's inclusion. She's kind of the only character I care about when I watch. Mostly because she's been through so much nonsense that even though her being brought back from the dead is stupid, being made corporeal again, I can't help but root for her. Because she's just trapped in this awful story. Someone help her. Someone help all of them, please. And admittedly, her romance with Thorin is kind of cute. Yes, it's stupid that Thorin is Sky's cousin and we're only just hearing about him now.
Hey, Sky.
Who is that guy? My cousin, Thorin. Dude, you have a cousin?
How the fuck does Brandon not... Brandon, you have been his squire for fucking years. You've been childhood friends with him. I don't... But to me, they do actually organically form a bond that blossoms into a relationship. But getting married at the end of the season? Yeah, no, Elsa ain't having any of this.
You can't marry a man you just met.
4 to 6 weeks later.
Wow, you can marry a man you just met. They're still better than any of the other couples this season, save for Tekna and Timmy though, so what the hell do I know? And the Pixies. Oh god. We'll get to this in a little while, but season 6 really tried to bank on nostalgia, and part of this involved bringing back the Pixies. Except the writers seem to have forgotten why people loved the Pixies back in season 2. Seems to be literally a trend with fucking everything that they try to bring back. You see, each Winx had her own Pixie, and not only were they all different in power and personality, but each Pixie specifically complemented her bonded fairy. Either they were total opposites in personality, or their personalities were different enough to complement each other. Take Flora and Chatta, for example. Flora was incredibly shy and soft-spoken back in season 2, while Chatta, the pixie of gossip, was naturally outspoken and energetic. For most of season 2, Flora fell in love with Helia, but was too afraid of rejection to admit it, and it was Chatta who got her to break out of her shell and speak her feelings aloud, which resulted in one of the best couples finally getting together. These kinds of dynamics are missing from season 6. The Pixies now are all the same positive thinking, personality-less hive mind, and when one of the Pixies does show a bit more personality, it's usually incredibly flanderized to the point she becomes a caricature of her former self. Well, the former only applies to 4 of our 6 Pixies because for some reason, we decided to replace Toon with Cherie and Digit with Caramel, aka Kara.
Cora! Cherie!
Why was this choice made? I still have no clue. Some say it's to tie the show more into the spin-off Pop Pixie that like 5 people watched, and others say it's because in Pop Pixie they decided to gender bend Digit into a male because the show introduced a bunch of male Pixies. My issue with that, aside from it making no sense, is that Toon, from what I can see, wasn't gender bent, so why was she also replaced? No shade to Kara, and especially Cherie, they're cool, but maybe if one of your major goals is to nostalgia bait older fans for the franchise's 10th anniversary, don't replace 2 fan favorites without explanation and expect it to go over well, especially when you actually show those 2 as a cameo later on. Just a thought. Also, the Winx promised back in season 4 to bring the new Earth fairy they found back to bond with one of the Pixies, and then 4 seasons later, not only does Roxy still not have a bonded Pixie, but she also just doesn't exist anymore. Wonderful, wonderful. Rainbow, you got your wish!
It isn't love, it isn't hate, it's just indifference. So, yeah.
And don't even get me started that, like, the budget for the show was already starting to go down by season 6, so Nick wound up replacing a lot of voice actors and reusing them, including the Pixies, who are just the Winx actresses, but with their voices pitched up. My poor ears.
You'll be back in your village soon, Luckhead.
I really, truly hope you're right.
And finally, Eldora. Words cannot describe how much I loathe this character. There is nothing wrong with the idea of a fairy godmother, but she plays no real role in the story. She doesn't help Selena come to her senses and redeem herself, nor does she really help the Winx in their missions despite having the 7th ancestral wand. Instead, she just pops in and out to give random bits of advice and plot-relevant information whenever the writers think the viewers have forgotten. Oh, and also for more bad comedy. And she doesn't even really know Bloom. Like, it basically just extends to, oh, I saw you playing with my former student all those years ago in my garden. I don't know a fuck else about you. Couldn't even fucking figure out she had the fucking dragon flame, but she can figure out Selena has fucking magic for some reason. Good fucking damn it. Also, I'm listening to this season now, as I record to fuel my rage. Does anyone notice that they try to give girls as many lines as possible when they don't need to in the English dub? Mainly by having the girls go, awesome, great, cool, wow, like at literally everything.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
Cool.
Wow.
Ooh, I can't wait to meet her.
No, me too.
It's just so amazing.
This is too cool. Wow, check this out.
Oh, it gets so old so quickly. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Every season of Winx Club introduces at least one new transformation. In a Magical Girl series, adding new transformations can help to keep things fresh, both story and especially design-wise. Season 5 actually took an interesting approach in focusing not on the new forms being stronger, but being better at a specific goal. In that case, for use underwater. It suggested that going forward, transformations would be specialized for different scenarios. Season 6 took that idea and set it on fire for all the neighbors to see. Light me the fuck up.
Light me up, light me up, light me up, go ahead and light me up.
The Winx continue using Sirenix solely because it's the latest form they got, despite the fact that, aside from episode 1, they're never underwater. Oh my god. Season 8 was actually a pleasant surprise given it tried to introduce the idea of using different forms for different situations. And though Season 6 technically does this with Bloomix and Mythix later on, the fact Sirenix is still here aggravates me. Even if the song is fire, the song alone can't save this. Oh, you know you fucked up when even the Sirenix song can't save you. But that's not the real problem. No. The problems begin with Bloomix, the biggest waste of a transformation in the whole show. Bloom-centric name aside, Bloomix is a power born from the Dragon Flame, when the rest of the Winx get their powers stolen by the Legendarium, which... how? Bloom shares sparks of her Dragon Flame with them, which then allow them to earn Bloomix through brave and noble actions worthy of a fairy. I break down these problems in my old Ranking the Winx Transformations video, in which I was far too nice to Butterflix and far too mean to Believix. But to recap, having these 6 girls earn the new form within 3 episodes, with 4 of them earning them in the same terribly paced episode, and 4 of them earning it in pairs, doesn't give the form time to shine like Enchantix, which was earned across 11 episodes of Season 3, with each girl earning it on her own. And when earning Bloomix includes saving your kid sister for the 17th time, having a shallow fight and then making up 5 minutes later, and backflips. Yeah, thanks, I hate it. It especially sucks because the girls are continually weakened to keep them from crushing the Legendarium monsters. Because let's be real, at this point, even without the Dragon Flame, the Winx should be able to crush literally any enemy thrown their way in 5 seconds flat.
The Enchantix energy the Winx possess is too strong. Your powers cannot compare to theirs now. They would easily beat you on the first or second spell.
And when the girls all wield the inextinguishable divine Dragon Flame that created the entire universe, the very magic that gave them all life, the very magic that allowed the Tricks to take over the whole fucking planet of magics in Season 1, and then they get their asses handed to them regularly, doesn't say much about that godly power, does it? Let alone the fact they got beaten by a damn bird in Season 7. Jesus fucking Christ.
I'm losing to a bird!
This is also a crime because Bloomix, aesthetically, is the best design transformation. That's right, I said it. It's better than Enchantix, at least to me. Burn me as the flames feed me.
Light me up, light me up, light me up.
And then Mythix is... this is the worst transformation of the franchise. Bar none. Again, reasons why in the ranking video, but what could have been an interesting change of pace in terms of transformations wound up feeling like an arbitrary way of having 2 forms to double the doll sales, along with added wands for merchandising. But neither form adds anything to the story. Charmix and Enchantix showed the girls growing up, reflecting on themselves and their flaws and being willing to sacrifice themselves to protect others. Believix in a lot of ways was a mess, but it did reflect Season 4's theme of bringing magic back to Earth, and in a way, believing in yourself and the good in the world. And Harmonix and Sirenix at least fit the oceanic theme of Season 5. Bloomix and Mythix don't add anything to the characters' journeys or the plot, mostly because there's no plot to add to, but hey, what can you do? The spells, likewise, are abysmal. I hate this rule that every form has to come with a new set of spells, with the old ones getting trashed. Because not only does it mean that a great older spell from an older form is needlessly trashed, F in the chat for the harmonic spells, but it also means the creators are constantly trying to come up with new spells and half-assing them. Most of the time they're just differently named, slightly differently colored beams and shields. The only spells that actually warranted interest from Bloomix were Stella's Total Eclipse, Flora's Spring Shower, and Aisha's Morphix Cloud. The rest are completely forgettable. Musa specifically got screwed on spells. She only has 2 Bloomix spells, one of which is just her 5000th Soundwave spell with a kinda cool name, and the other one, Crystal Voice, gets used only once. And no mythic spells for her, no sir. Good god, just let her use Diapason and Reverberating Notes again, please. And the songs are by far the weakest of the series. Season 6 marked a shift where Alessio Orlando began singing more of the series' songs in place of Elisa Rosselli, and the newer songs had way more hands on them in terms of production. Bloomix's song is almost offensive in how bland it is in lyrics, vocals, and instrumentation. I am no music expert, so I can't comment on the production too much, but these lyrics? Play the game together? No, I refuse. Fuck yo game. The Mythic song is better, but still mediocre. The only true good part of it being the vocals in the intro. There are actually prototype versions of both songs sung by Elisa Rosselli which got released recently. I'll link them down in the description. I am not a big fan of the vocal effects in either song, but they're definitely superior to the official songs that we got. Season 6 was released in 2014, the 10th anniversary of the franchise. As such, Rainbow really tried to go in on the nostalgia, hence the Pixies' return and also the Easter eggs they tried to shove in. From cameos of characters we know from previous seasons, to even visual references to the girls' old hairstyles, these references are all over Season 6. I've joked about Cloud Tower being turned invisible, but think about it. Why else would they have done it, aside from buying themselves time until the finale, but to reference Valtor turning it invisible in Season 3? Why else have that memory slideshow in the finale where they just have footage from this season instead of, I don't know, every season until this point? And especially in episode 12, Bloom and Stella reminisce about winding up in the spot in the park where they met all the way back in Season 1, which yes, is adorable, but the fact they used footage from the 1-hour specials instead of Season 1 says everything. They want to superficially echo back to tug on your heartstrings without actually honoring everything that came before this season. If we wanted to honor the older seasons, we wouldn't have committed to de-aging the Winx while pretending canon is still intact, and we would have put more effort into this story. Even if it is for a younger audience, the kids deserve better. They deserve something of the quality that we had when we grew up. Something akin to the first 3 seasons. And if you want to de-age the Winx, either have it in a new continuity, all for the kids to enjoy on their own, without annoying the older viewers trying to bait them. Or just have a whole bunch of new characters, maybe. Have a whole new Winx Club at Althea or whatever. I don't know. Bloomix is even the poor fairy's version of Enchantix. It's meant to be earned through bold and noble acts, similar to Enchantix's sacrificial requirement, but far more shallow and incredibly rushed. These are all attempts to parallel the older seasons without actually putting the work into using that to say something of merit. Season 6 is the worst season of Winx Club. Bad character writing, lazy plot construction, and shallow nostalgia bait that shows that the creators aren't sure who this is meant for. Is it for new, younger audiences who would prefer a simpler, more upbeat story? Or is it for the older fans who've made it abundantly clear they just wanted more of Season 4's approach to the Winx maturing as adults? As a result, it's the season most fans can't stand, and where the series officially made the turn for the worst. This unclear vision and lack of identity has persisted into the more recent seasons, World of Winx and Fate the Winx Saga, so it's no wonder the franchise is a shadow of its former self. It doesn't really seem to understand its audience or what they want. And there is honestly a simple fix. If you want a show that has a younger demographic, then either reboot the show and have it start all over for younger audiences, or introduce a whole new cast, a new Winx Club that the kids can enjoy, and that can be a spin-off while the main show continues to become more mature in the vein of Season 4. That way, both audiences get what they want in their own products without the mess that season 6 was. And no, I am not talking about what y'all tried to do with season 8 with the whitewashing and the terrible writing, and also Fate the Winx Saga with the whitewashing and terrible writing. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more content like this from me, then be sure to not only check out my other videos, but also to subscribe and ring that bell for notifications because YouTube hates creators. Also, please consider, if you're willing and able, pledging your support to myself and the channel over on Patreon. I'm the Unicorn of War, and I refuse to sit through season 6 ever again without at least a friend and an alcoholic beverage. I don't even like alcohol, and this is what the season has done to me.